Hey, this is Rock Goddess with Sonic XS. I'm here with Fernando from Moonspell. It's a real pleasure to get to meet you and speak with you. Did you have a good time on Halloween last night? How was the show?
Really good. I mean, the energy was quite different for the show, I think. I mean, coming out from Europe where Halloween doesn't mean, you know, a lot for the European people.
Right.
We have the Day of the Dead, but Halloween is something like, you know, not very important. It's not a holiday. So, but we always like to play Halloween. We've been doing this in Portugal quite with some success. Last year we had like 3,000 people attending to the Moonspell'S show.
Oh, good.
Yesterday was different. We were in Kansas City, but the energy was amazing. Everybody did, you know, its own little joke. We put like Evil Dead corpse paint on.
Oh, yeah.
People played without corpse paint, you know. So yeah, I really liked it. Really good energy, good party. You know, we walked around the crowd and went to the after show party. So for us, it's quite exotic. See everybody, you know, dressed up, and that's cool. So it was a great Halloween night. Definitely. There's no Halloween like spending it in the States.
Oh yeah, we love our Halloween here. Yeah, it's great. Okay, well, I was going to ask you some questions about Portugal. I was going to ask if there's any indications of some growing respect or popularity for metal in there.
Definitely. I mean, first, you know, the Portuguese scene has some problems. We never really understood why there was never another band, you know, coming from Portugal and doing what we do. And for us as a band, it will be definitely way better because that way we could belong to a scene instead of being just, you know, the band that people think about when they think about Portuguese metal. They think about Moonspell,
right? And
for 90% or 99% of the people, that's it. And it's not. There's a lot of talented people over there. But I think that the Portuguese scene and the musicians never had the right attitude to go with the music. You know, there was always concern with small stuff, with details, and in my opinion, there was never, except for Moonspell, a band that you know, fought hard and knew how to get, you know, to our dreams in a way. That's exactly what we did, but that's the band's part. You know, I hope it gets better because we definitely, for instance, would like people, you know, to know about Portuguese metal and to see other Portuguese bands on tour. When it comes to the crowd, it's amazing. I mean, for Moonspell, it's going great. Our last albums have charted very high on the national charts. Memorial was #1.
Congratulations, right?
Yeah, 9030 was #3, thanks. So that shows Metallica was just #1 as well, gold record in Portugal. So that shows that there's a lot of people, you know, wanting to listen to metal, and nowadays there's more people than ever listening to metal. It's not like the 80s or the 90s. People listen to music in a different way. They download, they do all kinds of stuff that is connected to our whatever present in a way. But when it comes to the crowd, I think Portugal is definitely becoming a very, very good country to play in, and they do support metal bands. One of the last shows we played in Portugal was together with Metallica and Machine Head on Rock in Rio Lisbon, and there was 50,000 people, even though Metallica was playing last year as well.
Right.
And they weren't playing any songs from Death Magnetic. So I think that shows that a lot of people are into the music, fortunately for us.
I know it's a very loyal crowd, and it's good to see that the genre is finally getting some respect. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's also from you know, from all the press and from the mainstream press, metal nowadays. I mean, we've been so many years, you know, metal just at the underground level,
right?
That except for the big bands like Maiden or Metallica or Slayer. But nowadays people have more interest in that, so we've been doing a lot of stuff personally with Moonspell that a lot of people like 5 years ago wouldn't think it would be possible for a metal band to do, coming out from Portugal and inside our own country as well. So I think it's really good. Well,
so do you feel any kind of a burden or heaviness on your heart for setting an example for future bands like in your area of the world, such as Portugal and Romania, areas such as that, where bands are trying to make it to the mainstream?
Sometimes it's complicated because you know, sometimes as bands do not tour and they are stuck in their own country.
Exactly.
It's hard to have the same vocabulary. It's hard to speak or to pass them information because they do not fully understand it, because they have to be on the road, you know, to understand what all of this is about. And sometimes people don't react in a good way. I think, especially in Portugal, people sometimes don't like to learn, you know.
Oh, okay.
And one of the good things about Moonspell is that we're always eager to learn every night, and with every record, and with every person that has something to tell us. I mean, it's a mixed feeling between yeah, a heavy heart, like a lot of people from the unknown scene, because metal is very too much, in my opinion. People look upon Norwegian bands, Swedish bands, you know, American bands, German bands, and English bands the most. And there are excellent bands, and obviously there's a history that Portugal or Greece or Romania doesn't, or Italy don't have. But I think that's not the fact that it came from Sweden. It's not like a, you know, like a stamp of quality.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Sometimes people just overlook this. I wrote an article in Terrorizer magazine. Exactly about that, about the bands that are out of the axis, you know.
Right, yeah.
And there's very fresh and good ideas and talent over there. On the other side, on the bright side, we're very proud that, you know, dealing with all these difficulties, dealing with the absence of understanding or a scene, and sometimes of belief. When we signed to Central Media, people were laughing at us because we were from Portugal.
Right.
But when after a couple of months we sold 60,000 units, they were not laughing anymore.
That's right.
You know, and that felt good. So there is a little bit of pride as well of us being here, for instance, with Danzig and Nemo, and being from Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Okay. I know Moonspell, I'm a huge fan. You're always original, always uncompromising. We're talking about a little bit about the current metal scene. Do you feel it's becoming a little predictable in a way?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, I tour with a lot of bands. We see lots of records, and I think nowadays there's a small pocket of bands that keep it interesting, while the rest of the metal scene, it's a bit confused. I must say, you know, there's bands that mix all the styles, and sometimes the result in the end is not the best.
Yeah.
And also on the other hand, yeah, like you say, there's a lot of things at stake. You know, metal became a very big music style. You know, with all these sponsors, with all these things that orbit the bands in a way. And sometimes I think these the bands just get carried away by that, and they forget that at the end of the day you might not wearing, you know, this kind of clothing or this kind of shoes, or you might not have catering or whatever, but at the end of the day your heart will feel heavier if you don't play a good show. You know, and you have to play a good show in every circumstance, and you have to do a good album and to express your ideas. So Moonspell, there are bigger bands in Moonspell, there are smaller bands in Moonspell. But Moonspell, for me, in my opinion, is one of the most free bands. Very independent spirit when it comes to an album. We don't listen to anyone. We just do whatever we feel. It's inside our style, inside our ideas. We don't want to also become like something that is not recognizable as Moonspell, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So I think throughout, since Under the Moonspell up to Night Eternal, we already have, in a way, constructed a vocabulary, a lexicon for Moonspell elements, in a way, both musically and lyrically. And we follow that, but always keeping up a space for progress. I feel bands like us, like Opeth, like Catatonia, you know, many other bands are very needed in the scene, because nowadays what I see, it's someone coming up with something and 100 bands, you know, doing exactly the same. So it's like Matrix and copy. And I think metal, for instance, in the 90s was much more avant-garde in a way. But it's a complex problem, because sometimes, you know, we got that experience ourselves. Sometimes the crowds do not want to be challenged in a way by a band. They want someone to deliver exactly what they would do if they had the band.
Exactly what they're expecting every time.
I think that's not healthy in a way. You know, I think there is place for everyone in the scene, and the fans have a very important role in the scene. But I think metal is about freedom, so there shouldn't be any mind games or control games, you know, between the fan and the band. There's always a good option. I mean, if you're not happy with a band, just do one. And see if it's hard or not.
Yeah. There should always be room for the growth, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.